Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of WTF Live, the Halloween show, I guess you would say. And
The Halloween edition,
today,
that's right.
the Halloween edition. And today we have a very special treat. Today's show is called Then and Now. And we are going to be showing you window treatment installations that Luann did back in the 80s,
Mm.
hence our look, and how we would treat these windows now in 2020. So, for those of you who don't know me or don't recognize me looking a little crazy, I'm Kim from Window
Oh, come
Works.
on, you look better than Madonna. Own it.
She was my 80s icon idol. I did love her
I
in the
still
80s.
do.
Still do. But yes, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kim. I'm from Window Works. We are located in Livingston, New Jersey. We service the New Jersey and New York area. If you have any window treatment or awning needs, please give us a call. We would be happy to help you and guide you on your next project.
And my name is Vita. I'm the owner of Vitalia Inc. And no, I do not look like this every day. I don't even look like that picture, the headshot of mine. I don't look like that either every day. So the reality is somewhere in between. But Kim and I thought what fun it would be. Actually, it
Yeah.
was Kim's idea. Kim, full credit to you. It was your idea to do the then and now version of the before and after. So this is what we're doing today. As always, we come to you every Friday at 12
Mm-hmm.
noon live on Facebook and Instagram. And we show you different window treatments and we talk about window treatments and we give you the ins, the outs, the good, the bad, the ugly, the lessons that we learn behind the scenes. We peel back the curtain to let you in on a lot of the tips that we've learned over the years. So today will be no different, except with a little twist of showing you what Luann and many window treatment specialists did
Yes,
in the 80s and how we would
absolutely.
treat that window today.
So here we go.
So here we go. Without further ado, I'm just going to bring up our presentation here in a second. Here we go.
Okay,
And here we go.
so this would have been a child or a tween's room back in the 80s. You can see, just from the balloon shade and how we would treat it. This was a stationary balloon shade that it had a blackout shade underneath, but that was what you would use as a valance. I mean, and nothing screams a little bit more 80s like the satin bed covering. I remember having, the puppet in the corner and everything else. And it just, so this is how you would really decorate a room back in the 80s with the satin letters over the bed. I think I even had those as a
Yep.
kid and all that good stuff. So if you really look at the window treatment though, the whole balloon, the scalloped, bigger was better.
The bigger the better.
Bigger
The
was
bigger the
better. Yes.
hair.
And you had all those poofs. So that was then. And this is how you would treat a tween's room now or a young child's room. Now, this was a project that we did for Maureen Orsino from Orsino Interiors. If you go to her website, it's under the Welcome Home to New Jersey portfolio. And this was a little girl's room. Now, what we did here was it's a little bit more tailored, a little bit more modern in this sense. And these are actually top down, bottom up Roman shades. They're
Oh,
blackout Romans. Yep. And we did them blackout because the homeowner wanted them dark for the kids to sleep. But then because of where this room is in location to the house, they also wanted it so that they had privacy at the private level. And instead of doing multiple layers and we had enough of an inside mount, for both, we did top down, bottom up. So with the top down, bottom up, you can see in the photo, there's a little self balance. So that covers the mechanism. And you can see the really, it's like almost like a watercolor pattern here in terms of the pattern. So has a little bit of color, not so dramatic, but everything else is very, calm and serene. So
and very clean and very streamlined,
exactly.
and that serene, almost monochromatic color palette, of course, goes in stark contrast to what we did in the 80s.
Correct, correct. So yeah, so this is how we would treat a young girl or a tween's room now.
Next, we have
Ooh.
we have a living room, and this is how we did it 40 years ago. So we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
We had this obnoxiously flowered pattern,
Yep.
floral pattern, lots of yellows and greens and pinks
Pink.
and reds. You know, here you see the pink sofa, of course. I mean, I think that was a staple too. Oh, thank you, Tammy. You
Thanks,
think we're cute?
Tammy.
Thank
Bringing back some memories, Tammy. I'm sure you made a lot of window treatments that look like this.
you. So this was sort of a relaxed. It doesn't even look like it was a constructed
No.
swag up on the pole, and it was just kind of like I mean, it's never really thrown. I think they actually it's much more difficult. It was much more difficult for the
No.
installers to dress what was supposed to be like a relaxed or like a casual type of throw on swag rather than a more tailored swag. But nonetheless, that's what it was. Is just thrown over the pole, and then you have these drapery the drape continues and the panel
Mm-hmm.
goes all the way down, and it's interesting how it starts with like these small like the small little width up at the top because
Mm-hmm.
that's where it was bunched up over the rod, and then as it comes down it kind of poofs out into what kind of looks like a prom dress, and of course it just like billows and falls all over the
And
floor, and it's probably like a 20-inch puddle, and it's puddling and swimming there all over that floor. And so that's what we did then, and this is how we would treat this room now. So
completely different.
then and now, no surprise here, of course, everything is much more tailored. It's much calmer. It's much more just really kind of streamlined. You know, there's no poofs. There's no yes, Kim.
Any
Kim is
party.
yes, it is. Kim, thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome to our party. Come and join. And so nothing is puddling on the floor. I mean, we haven't done anything that truly puddles on the floor in, I don't know, like I've been in business 15 years actually. And so I did do something that puddled once, but that was like a thing when I first started, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, actually, some of our designers will ask to just kind of break on the floor.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
not a lot, but I have a couple of designers who do like that look. It's usually done for stationary panels. And so
Mm-hmm.
the break is usually anywhere between like half an inch to about an inch or so.
Mm-hmm.
And but most of the time we just go to the floor. Of course, every designer asks for it to just skim the floor, and we can talk about that separately, but the idea is that it doesn't really touch the floor that much. It just goes to the floor. The panels are straight and lean and streamlined and simple. Simplicity really is key. And so that's the drapery panels. Usually they're taken as close to the ceiling as possible. This is a really cool coffer ceiling, so we took it all the way up there to really kind of emphasize the ceiling and bring the drapes all the way up and have your eyesight go up. And in terms of privacy, here in these living room windows, we did woven wood shades, which is another something that is very prevalent right now. It has
Mm-hmm.
a lot of natural fibers and that natural organic look. And so those natural wovens, in this case, these were in like a grassy cloth type, and it was a very uh, natural and neutral looking. Another color in woven woods that's very popular is a lot of that gray and
Mm-hmm.
weathered look, a lot of whites and off whites. So that's very popular now as well. But this is how we would treat those individual windows now. And I think anybody who lives in a colonial type home knows you have living room, dining room, and a lot of those rooms have two, identical windows. This happens to have a third one. That's why Kim, I was so excited about the before picture when I saw it. Kim had to scan all of them from Polaroids.
Yeah.
So I'm
When
like, oh my gosh, I have the exact project that we did that totally mirrors the before.
okay.
Oh, another beauty.
Who remembers these? Oh my gosh. Okay. So back in the 80s, everything matched down to the shams, the ruffles, you can, on the shams, the comforter. You can't tell here, but the bed skirt is made out of the same
Of
shirred
course it did.
material
I'm
as the
surprised you don't have
canopy.
wallpaper that matched the bedding too.
Yeah. I mean, this top of this now reminds me of like a Cabbage Patch doll hat. Like that's like, I mean, and that's really going back to the 80s, but it's just crazy that everything was very ruffled and very ornate, a lot of flowers. And that was the cool thing about the 80s, is that people, that you mix and match with the patterns. Like you had this diagonal plaid pattern that you just mixed in with the floral, and it was very like, this is what you did. So that was a great part about that. So that's how Luann would deal with bedding then. And this is how we deal with bedding now, where it's definitely a lot more clean lined. A lot of the bedding or beds now have the headboard, just not a canopy. Even if it is a canopy, it isn't open. It doesn't have all that ruffle loveliness. This particular bed, this was a project that we did for Joan Stapleman of Roseland Properties. And this, as you can see here, the bed doesn't have any kind of bed skirt. It has the frame that goes all around it. So we eliminate that. A lot of times when we are doing, hey, Mimi.
Mimi's like, oh my
Oh my
God.
God.
Yes, Mimi, we went there. Yep,
We
here we
did.
are in full
We did.
glory.
For those of you who are just joining, we are doing a then and now. If you haven't told, if you can't tell, and we're going back to the 80s. So, and with this particular bedding, we did this really beautiful, like this is a modern floral. That's why I wanted to show, like that's how the florals we used to do, 30, 40 years ago. Can't believe I'm saying that. But and this is a modern take, and with the deep purples and pulling a color out of there instead of adding another pattern, you really punch it up with the solids and the Euro shams that you would use, along with the king shams and then the little kidney pillow in the front.
And it's interesting that you are saying that. I want to underscore the point, Kim, that you're saying modern floral. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the interesting part is the florals are back for
Yes,
sure.
they
They
are.
right, they have been. It's kind of a new
100%.
thing. I've been seeing it in the last
Mm-hmm.
year or so, not so much prior to that. Some will probably see some more of it going forward. So it's interesting how we had all these, ungodly florals back then, and now we'll look at modern take on florals, and we're like, that's pretty cool. We like it. That's kind of the way to go. So it's interesting how trends, we all know that trends come around. They just do so in a more updated way.
Right, right. And who knows? And 30 years will say that old floral.
We will. I guarantee you we will. We'll look back at us, Kim, 20 years from now and be like, oh my God, what were they thinking?
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Okay,
I mean,
here. Oops.
there is so much to unpack with this one.
Oh gosh, I know. Probably don't have time in the whole episode, but I will try to pull out just some salient points here. All right, so we have a short window. Actually, this is a standard single window. It's not even that
Mm-hmm.
short, right? So it's a
No.
standard single window. It's just kind of hanging out there. It looks like it's a dining room, and maybe there is a symmetrical window on the other side of that
Mm-hmm.
a hutch, or maybe there isn't. I don't know, but here it is. And so, how did we do it back in the 80s? We put shears on it, on the window, and we didn't take the shears to the floor. We
No.
just stopped it right there at the sill.
Under the chair rail.
I know, It's, I want to say, we used to say that, oh, you don't want to make something too short because it looks like a man's pant that is too short. And of
Yeah.
course, we can't say it now anymore because that's what's in style now. All these, short pants, to show off the socks. That's what's in. Can't even say that anymore. But anyway, in terms of window treatments, we definitely do not take them to the sill or
No.
to the apron. We take it all the way from the ceiling all the way down to the floor. So that's number one. Number two, we have this interesting swag with what looks like contrasting cascades, and then the
Mm-hmm.
cascades have a contrasting lining on them. So I think there's
So,
3 different fabrics happening there. And then
4, yeah, with the sheer.
right, well, with a sheer, exactly, right. And then another, why did we do it this way? But look at these huge cascades. They're not even like small. They're not narrow. They're pretty big on a small window, which, everything, what happens, it's cutting this poor window in all sorts of pieces. It's kind of chopping it up without letting it live and breathe and kind of stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So these cascades were taking, instead of them going under the valance, the swag, they were put on top of the swag. So talk about choppiness and being all over the place there. But hey, this is the way we did it back then. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like, it reminds me of the eyeshadows, right? You got like this palette of eyeshadows, and there's like 20 different colors, and it was absolutely imperative that you put all of them on your eyelid. Like, you couldn't miss a thing, you know, it all
Nope.
went up there. So I feel like that's exactly what happened with this window here. There's all these fabrics that they liked, and they just wanted to combine all of them and, like, you know, plop it up there in any way so that it just kind of like, in which way can we, you know, stick it up on the window? So here's how we will treat this window now.
Woo! You
Ta-da!
can
I
breathe.
mean, I know, right? I mean, it's like I was getting a headache from that window, and, you know, look at this, and it's serene,
Mm-hmm.
it's clean, it's simple, it's streamlined. We have the thin rod at the top, at the ceiling. We have the panels going all the way down from the ceiling to the top, from ceiling to the top. No, from the from ceiling to the floor. And even the fabrics, you can see there's a lot of solids that's being used,
Mm-hmm.
along with the trim going down, up and down the leading edge. So there's a lot of that happening nowadays. So, and the panels are off the window as much as possible. I mean, this is actually not a standard window. This is a pretty squatty window. So in the 80s, we would have taken that perimeter of the window and just kind of hovered all over it and hugged it and covered it. Whereas now what we do is we just let it open and breathe and just, like, stand on its own.
Right, right. No, and it's a different use, like how we now use different hardware. So when we had the swags on the first image, the swags that I believe would have either been done with some type of like rosette tie back, or would have
Hmm.
been stapled to a wood pole, depending on how swoopy you wanted the swag. But now everything is going on a metal pole and is just super sleek and super clean. Yeah.
Amen to that. All right.
Okay,
Next 80s
so
situation.
woo-hoo-hoo. Here we have a shirred rod pocket valance with a lovely little header and the nice tapered off edge. Because again, in the 80s, when you had these tapered valances, you brought them down all the way to the sill. Like there was no, this looks like now like a bad haircut, like bad bangs and a haircut. Like that's what I see when I look at this.
So
Like, you know, like it might have been like a quarantine haircut with like you sat with a bowl and went down like this. But yeah, so it would have been, everything was very, very full. It was a lot of fabric that you would try to get on this rod in order to get that very shirred look and the whole tapered. And so like back then you kind of have to figure out like, where did you want the taper to start? Because you knew that it was going down to the sill. And then you would put something, some kind of like honeycomb shade underneath, because back then they were called verisols, not even honeycomb shades. They were the verisol shades. And I still remember going on appointments with Luann, and we would go into homes and she would be like, oh my God, they have this kind of shade that back in the day in the 80s, you could like specify colors. And you could be
mhm.
like, from here to here, we want gray. And then from here to here, it needs to be red. And then from
Oh
here to
my
here, it's
God.
white. Yeah, she was like, it
Seriously, the
would,
whole shade could have been like in stripes? Oh
like
my
you could
word.
specify colors and specific things. So it kind of is like homage to this. So this would have been a typical living room back in the 80s when it looks like it's off of the kitchen or, you know, in the entrance right there when you walk in. And it would have been this thin, thin thing on top and then boom, thickness along the bottom with some kind of a verisol shade underneath. So this is how you would treat a window treatment today, a window as such. So you can see here, again, even down to the choice of the shade. This is a Hunter Douglas Pirouette shade. So it has a little bit of a softer feel. You have a little bit more of like control with the view. With the Pirouette, it kind of almost gives the look of a Roman, not quite,
Mhm.
but like a Roman blinds. You have the softness. And then you see here just something very tailored, a very tailored cornice. So we brought this cornice right up under the crown so that this way there was no telling of where the window stopped and started. So everything again always goes up. We're all about making the window treatment feel taller, breezier, wider, as opposed to all the fabric that crunched down, like, you know, the bad haircut valance that I will call that. But yeah, so with this, it's just simple, clean line with this particular cornice, what we did was, in order to add a decorative element to it, we piped it with a contrasting cord trim that matched the orange of the sofa. So that was really great. And then you can't tell because it's in the photo, because the photo is a little too far away, but this particular pattern, it's not a solid, it's a very small tone on tone print. So again, it's not something that's overpowering when you walk in the room. It's not like, hey, look at me, I'm the window treatment. But when you get a little closer to it, you could appreciate, like, oh, it has a very nice small diamond tone on tone pattern.
Nicely done. Again, streamlined, simple, off the window as much as possible. That's the theme of
Yes.
the day. Theme of the 21st century. All right. So we have, oops. We have, okay, I'm back. Oh, that was just a phone call. So we have another, oh my goodness, go away, please. I'm back. Another balloon shade. This is a dining room, and just like the rest of the pictures from the 80s, everything is hovering over the window. It's covering the window too much. It's not letting it breathe. This particular one is shirred on a rod there, and it has a ruffle at the top. In order to make it poofy like that, they used to put tissue paper inside. That reminds me of something else we used tissue paper for, to make us look bigger in the 80s. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's completely covering the window. It's mounted way too close to it. And this is what a double window in a dining room look like today.
A lot different.
Let me see. Wow, here it is. Like, wow, right? I mean, you look at it and by comparison, you're just like, oh my God, like what a difference 30 years makes, right?
Exactly.
It only took window treatment industry 30 years. That's okay.
You know what though? It might secretly come back.
It might. Hey, I told you I'm secretly rooting for swags and cascades and jabots. Not quite executed the way maybe it was done in the 80s, more updated
Well,
style,
then
but
come up with a really modernized version so the rest of us can jump on the bandwagon, because these examples are
I
awful.
accept that challenge, Kimberly.
Yes.
And so back to our photo here, you can see that everything is much simpler. It's breathing, it's more open. This particular style is called blocking, which is when you have the one color on the top of the drape and a different color on the bottom of the drape. This is two-part blocking. You can even take it as three-part blocking. We've done that before. We've showed it to you before in some of our two-story treatments. And the hardware that is used here is acrylic hardware, so you can actually barely see it from this angle, but acrylic hardware, you guys have heard us say that before, it's all the rage right now. And in this situation, it's accented with some black finishes. So we have a black collar on the finial and a black bracket, three different brackets. So, and everything of course is mounted as high up as possible. I mean, we wanted to mount this as high as possible so much that these brackets are mounted on the crown molding, like actually on the crown. So we didn't even go under the crown. We wanted to take it as high up as we possibly could, because it's all about creating that length and that just elongating everything in the room and making it visually look taller.
Yeah.
So
And this is a good example of not being afraid to mount on the crown. I know that there's this huge stigma that sometimes that we shouldn't mount on the crown molding, but there are times where we have no choice, and it is okay that there, you know, it's not like an absolute rule that no, you cannot install on the crown. You just have to make sure you have the proper hardware to do it, and the proper application and whatnot, because there are a couple things to think about. But yeah, this is a great example of that. Good job, Vita.
thank you. All right. All right. Next and final 80s example.
Okay, so what we got going on here is a swag, some swags, and some cascades. And again, everything was like a picture frame framing out the window. It's almost like, like Legos, the Lego head, and you can like switch off the hair. Like it was just like boom, we're just gonna
Yeah,
place it right on the window and frame it out. I mean, I know there's a
right.
picture of a lambrequin too, which is like a cornice that you take down all the way to the side, so it's very similar. So, I mean, this is how you address a family room window, again with the same honeycomb, Verisol kind of a shade. Here, you have the swags in the burgundy color because, again, in the 80s, they were not afraid to use color, which there isn't anything wrong with that. I wish we could incorporate more color now.
I know, I do too.
I wish that whole stigma of everything having to be white and clean line, like let's bring a little bit of fun back into window treatments, but that's another topic for another day. But yeah, so this would have been a typical valance in a family room. And then today, a valance would be, we have this valance here, which is a tailored kick pleat valance where we have pleats in the corner. Again, it's very streamlined, unlike the cornice, which is
Fully upholstered.
where it's fully upholstered. Thank you. Fully upholstered. This one is just mounted on the board, and the actual valance itself, it's a soft valance. So we have a pleat in the corner, and then what we did here was we lined up the pleats with the mullions of the windows. We didn't go with all the mullions. We just wanted 2 pleats there because then it would have been a lot of pleats. And this particular client wasn't afraid to use the pattern. So this is a modern geometric type of pattern. It is purple. So it is a purple on a gray background here. There is a self-welt at the top just to give it a little bit of a detail. So, and then underneath we went with a woven wood shade. So like what Vita was saying in the living room photo from the beginning of the video, this video here, or this photo here, we went with a woven wood and we went with one big shade going across so you wouldn't have to figure out, especially in a picture window where there's 4 or 5 windows, like where's the natural break? It gets very choppy. So I like to, if I have the opportunity to do one big shade going across, that's my vote.
Yeah,
So that this
definitely.
way you don't have to, oh, your daughter's here. Hi, Anna.
Hi. I know my kids are religious. They're so good. They watch us every Friday. They're our biggest fans,
They
Kim.
are. So with this, it just is a great example of how you can do one big shade going across a window like this, and how you can have one valance also going over the top. This particular woven wood is unlined, but it's the customer just wanted a little bit of sun protection. So it's another good example of that you can do unlined wovens. It's just what the level of privacy you need. That's why when you add lining.
And I like how you went with one shade, Kim, that you didn't chop it up. Anytime you guys can do that, by all means, try to do that. Of course, there's some things to think about. First of all, the size of the window and the
Mhm.
size and the width of the fabric, and whether that woven cloth even comes in that width. So
Right.
there just may be some restrictions,
Right.
constraints there. Constrictions, that's a new word. And I had another point. Oh, and also the lift system. So
Yes,
depending on how wide the shade is and how long, how tall the window is, you want to make sure to use the lift system that can support the weight of it. And
correct.
usually that means that takes you out of the cord lock, because that's just something that is very kind of flimsy in the way and
Mhm.
doesn't really hold a lot of weight. So you go into more of a continuous loop cord or motorization. Of course, you can
Yes.
always add motorization to any hard treatment that you do.
Mhm. I'm a big fan of that. We get a lot of questions too on, can that be motorized? At this point now, it's like, yes, we can motorize anything. Billy will figure it out. If not, then it can be done. But yeah, this
Yeah.
part you can't, I don't know if you can really see it, but this one is with the continuous cord loop. And you do have to have those discussions and conversations on whether or not the shade, the weight, and then whether or not before you fall in love with the fabric, can it expand the window completely without having to chop it up. So these are things that you do want to have talk about. And I always say that when I'm working with clients, let's not fall in love with this pattern just yet. I have to find out if I can do it as one, and
Hmm.
then what the options are too.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about, it's not always knowing exact answers on the
No,
spot, but it's knowing what questions to ask and what areas to probe for.
right, exactly.
All right, Kim.
Alrighty, everyone. Well, that concludes this very special and fun episode of WTF Live, the Then and Now Halloween. um, if we have some free goodies for you on the WindowWorks website, we have Architectural Digest Isn't Coming 10 Things You Need to Know About Window Treatments. Luann wrote this ebook a couple years ago. So if you're new to window treatments and you just want to get some basic tips, this is a very great tool for you. Head on over to the WindowWorks website at windowworksnj.com.
Awesome. And from Vitalia Inc., you also get a free gift. We have a free report that you can grab off of our website, vitaliainc.com. And it is 37 and a half window treatment ideas that you can use immediately, steal, swipe, and make your own on your next design project. So whether you're a homeowner or an interior designer, you can grab the free lookbook. It's curated by yours truly here, where I tell you exactly why we did things, what to look for, and what things to notice. So for sure, make sure to grab your free gift.
Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Gina.
And to keep up with all things Luann, because she is a very busy lady, and I know it's November in 2 days, and I know a lot is dropping in November. So be sure to follow her on Instagram at Luann Nigara. And if you want to listen to the audio version of WTF, follow a Well-Designed Business podcast on all podcast platforms, or you can go to Luann's website, luannigara.com, and hit the podcast tab, and then the little search engine off to the right. Just type in WTF, and all of Vita and Luann's episodes will be there for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, and in case you guys didn't know that, WTF, Window Treatment Friday, was a series on Luann's podcast that she and I started about a year and a half ago or so. And about 6 months ago, I think Kim and I kind of picked up the idea. We sort of picked up the baton, but we made it slightly better. I mean, we'll call it slightly different. It's still the Window Treatment Friday, but we're calling it the live edition. And the whole point here is to show you the pictures, to show you the visuals, to actually not just talk to you and at you, but really show you in pictorial form why we did the things that we did. So whether you like listening to me and Luann on the podcast, I talk about window treatments and various situations and challenges, or and actually it's not an or, it's an and. It should be an and you also like seeing the beautiful eye candy and really learning the different options that are available to you. Come join us here every Friday.
Absolutely. And to keep up with everything WindowWorks, if you want to follow us on Instagram at WindowWorks, and on Facebook, if you have any questions, or if there's any topic you would like Vita and I to discuss or cover, anything, just please reach out to us. We're always looking for different ideas and things. And yeah, so be sure to follow WindowWorks on our platforms.
And of course, I invite you to follow me as well. I'm, like I said, the owner of Vitalia Inc. I am very active on Instagram. So there, my handle is Vitalia_Inc. You can also reach out to me by phone or email. Everything is here. Essentially, if you're an interior designer in the Philadelphia area looking for the one go-to resource, kind of a one-stop shop in terms of window treatments, and you're looking for a company that will really support you, who will really have your back, and experience our concierge service, the VIP treatment, please give us a call and we'll be happy to support you on your next window treatment project. And of course, join us here every Friday, because Kim, if it's Friday,
it's WTF. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Halloween. Enjoy, be safe, and we love the 80s. Here we are.
Woo-hoo! See you guys next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.